Frankie from Flatbush rides the Brooklyn line. Got a swagger sharp like a vintage wine. Everybody knows his name from porch to stoop. Hustling dreams in every loop. In the park he struts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories when the shadows fall. Got 1,000 tales and a confident grin. On the streets of Flatbush where legends begin. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. He's got the rhythm, everybody cheers. Corner talks and sidewalk chalks his fame. In the Flatbush breeze you'll hear his name. Underneath the subway on the magic's real. Frankie's moves got that electric feel. From Atlantic Avenue to the urban hill, Flatbush Frankie's giving you a thrill. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go.
Testing, 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 testing. That should work. Okay. Hello, hello. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me know if you can hear me and see me in the chat. Phil Sims is here. Tell, but you never know until you find out from the people out there. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. All right, Caden is here. Good to see Caden, JETS page. Good to see everybody. It's February the 2nd, 2025. It's 10:03 a.m. on the East Coast of America. This is Coffee with Frankie. This is the coffee. I am the Frankie. And today is Sunday, but it's the Sunday of the Pro Bowl. It's the Sunday before the Super Bowl. So we're getting a lot of Pro Bowl stuff. We're getting a lot of Senior Bowl stuff. But we're not getting much news at all. It's not going to be a news heavy time. It's not going to be a news heavy time. Okay, audio is good. That's good. Thank you. Morning, Joe. Mike is here. All these folks are here. So that's good. No, we're not going to get a ton of news. We still have some staff hires to make for the Jets, of course. And so we'll have to see how those work out. But we do have a new article in ESPN. So let's go to that and see. It was written by um, it was written by Rich Simini. Let's see if how this looks. It's pretty good. Get rid of that. Let's get rid of this and this. So we can see here, as of today, um, Jets GM Muji tasked with solving New York's QB puzzle. See here that so this is going to give us an idea of what the narratives are going to be going forward. When Samini writes, he's got his narratives, of course, that he wants to hammer home. So one of the things is going to be, what about the quarterback? What about the quarterback? And of course, it's a logical question. Says here the great QB search just have entrusted a former quarterback with the job of finding their post Aaron Rodgers quarterback. We're talking about GM Darren Muji. Did you know he was a former quarterback who learned the position from his late father and became a 3-star recruit in Arizona? Played quarterback at San Diego State in high school. He trained with Donovan McNabb, called him Sunshine. Okay, that's nice. Whether it's this offseason or next, Muji is expected to address the team's long term quarterback issue. His predecessor couldn't do it. Plagues this team since 1968. Obviously, it's important. Muji backed up current Minnesota Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell at San Diego State. So that's good. Positional expertise should help, but there are no guarantees in the business of player acquisition. Muji knows this all too well. And the Broncos, they struggled, couldn't find it. Lynch, Drew Lock, Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco, Case Keenum, and then they finally got it right with old Bo Nix. It seems like they passed on Josh Allen, as did a lot of people, including us. 5th overall pick in 2018, and Allen came out of Wyoming that year. But of course, Elway was the GM at that time. So you may be asking, this is a good question. Is Rodgers' scheme fit with Tanner Engstrand, the offensive coordinator? So Joe Mike wants to know about Sean Jefferson. Sean Jefferson is a good wide receiver coach, and we retained him. So that's good, Joe. Simple as that. Glenn liked him. So Glenn likes, apparently, if you notice the theme, Joe, these hires, for the most part, they're former players, almost all of them. And so Sean Jefferson fits the mold. He's well respected. Obviously, Glenn liked him, and we kept him. That's simple. Is Rodgers a scheme fit? So, it goes over some interesting numbers here. Engstrand will presumably install a Detroit Lions like system, considering he spent the, spelled wrong, misspelled the rich last 3 years as the passing game coordinator in Ben Johnson's prolific offense. It's different from what Rodgers did last season. In some regards. The Lions ran a league high 39% of their plays from under center. And you wonder, is that really a Goff preference? While the Jets ran 15%, Rodgers prefers the shotgun. But you wonder, is this 39% because that's what Goff prefers? Is that what they like to do? Maybe Goff just likes those plays under center. So you have to see. No team used play action more than the Lions. You're going to use a lot of play action if you're under center, typically, though you can do so from the gun, of course. Significantly more than the Jets. And then, does Rodgers want to learn a new system taught by a first time play caller? Last time he had to do that was 2019. Rodgers didn't like not having as much freedom to audible at the line of scrimmage, and eventually LaFleur relented and they had great success. Clearly, Coach Aaron Glenn wants to recreate the Lions' offense since he brought over Engstrand and Steve Hayden to be the O line coach. Motown is coming to Jersey, whether Rodgers likes it or not, and we'll find out. Rodgers, of course, did have positive things to say about the Lions as an organization during the season, in particular relating to the owner there. But um, whether he wants to, be with Engstrand is TBD at this point. Overhaul. The only coordinator or position coach from the previous here's Sean Jefferson. So yeah, somebody was asking about Sean Jefferson. The Jets blocked other teams from trying to poach him. So you can do that if they're trying to take him for the same position. So obviously the Jets people in the building liked Jefferson, and then obviously Glenn liked him, so we kept him. So this is good news the way I see it. Strong relationship with Garrett Wilson, so that's good. And has a link to Glenn. Has a link to Bill Parcells, so that's good. Uh, Hackett probably out of here, though no official word on Nathaniel Hackett. He was stripped from the website, though. That's not important now. Pleasing the alums. So this is like the Legends Council that I told you guys about. Seems like we got a little bit of an informal Legends Council. The hiring was a popular move among former Jets players, so that's good from different eras. For years, some of them complained privately that the organization wasn't offering employment opportunities for alums. Now, one of their own is leading the franchise. I think we should bring on some alums. I mean, does Kevin Mawai want to be an assistant line coach? Does Nick Mangold want to be an assistant line coach? Somebody like that. Victor Green has been making a lot of noise on social media. He would love to come on the staff. Can he be an assistant, defensive back coach? Why not? And he knows what's going on. So this says just Blitz baby, but it really should be Blitz baby Blitz. And so this has to do with Steve Wilks. Now, Steve Wilks, I did finish my research. Wilks has pretty much always had a 4-3. So it seems like we're not switching out of base 4-3 to 3-4. Seems to me. Because Glenn ran a 4-3 in Detroit. And although he's been around 3-4s, Wilks prefers the 4-3 also. So we're not going to change out of that, which is good in a lot of ways because you don't have to remake your personnel on defense for the fronts. Now, Glenn and Wilks like to blitz a lot, it says. In three of his previous coaching stops, Wilks' defense always ranked among the blitz leaders. Yeah, except for the 49ers. Now, this says it didn't click, but the 49ers, the 49ers, where Wilks coached, last coach under the 4-3 and the defense most similar to ours, they gave up 17 and a half points per game. Uh, and it says it didn't click. The man gave up 17 and a half points per game, which was third in the league, third best. And they went all the way to the Super Bowl. Didn't click, though. I mean, the man gave up 17 and a half points per game in the defense that's most like ours. Remember, built by Saleh, all the Saleh philosophy and all that, and they just rehired Saleh. And they fired him because Shanahan needed a scapegoat, essentially. All the way to the Super Bowl, kept Mahomes under 20 points in regulation. Not good enough for Shanahan. Didn't click, Rich says. Some lofty so I'm pretty high on Steve Wilks. I think we're going to be just fine with Coach Wilks. I'm happy about it. Lofty praise. Also happy about Chris Banjo, the old banjo. We're going to play a few tunes on special teams, including the old banjo. Special teams coordinator Chris Banjo received a glowing recommendation from Mike Westhoff. So that's good. There's an alum, the former Jet special team coordinator who coached Banjo as a player with the Aints and worked alongside him as a coach in Denver with the Bronconians. He made the transition from player to coach better than anyone I've ever been associated with, said Westhoff. Spoke highly of him. In case you're wondering, Westhoff, 77, said he's not interested in coaching anymore. This is due to his health. You remember he was on the Denver staff last year, but he had to quit, essentially, because he had a health scare, he said. So that's not good. But he's open to observing for a couple of days in mini camp and training camp. So he could come in and provide a little help. You know, you can never. That's a good thing. And if you remember, Greenbean and I interviewed Mike Westhoff back in the day. Back in the day, when Mike Westhoff put out a book, Greenbean was able to book him on the show, and we asked him a bunch of questions. And that was a fun interview. If you guys remember that one, I asked him about how much time you know that special teams coaches get because they're often neglected on the staff. There's only so much time you have to practice. You're going to put a lot of time on offense, a lot of time on defense. How much time are you going to get to put on special teams? And so I asked him about that, and that was interesting. Nice guy. Apparently, the book he put out is excellent. Greenbean was very high on it. I have not got the Westhoff book. Let me know if you read the Mike Westhoff book. Apparently, it's very good to learn about sort of the behind the scenes of Jets history when he was on the staff and all that, and the Rex years and all. So that's something that's on my to do list to get that Mike Westhoff book. 77 years old already. Jeez, time flies, folks. Time flies. They go way back. A player knows he's been around a long time when he's reunited with a former teammate who happens to be a coordinator now. That's the case with Aaron Rodgers and old Banjo. Did you know that Chris Banjo were teammates for 3+ years in Green Bay, where Banjo's special teams prowess enabled him to make the team as an undrafted free agent? So that's good. I mean, Rogers has a connection to Banjo. Not a lot of us probably knew that. But and then Banjo made it as a UDFA, so I kind of like that as the coordinator because he can talk to all of those people that come in, all the UDFAs and training camp and all that when we got the 90-man roster, and he can say, "Look, I've been where you guys are. Some of you, you're not going to make this roster as a defensive player or an offensive player. It's just the way it is. It's a numbers game. But where you can make your money, where you can make this team is on special teams. And here's what you got to do: one, two, three, four, five, whatever it may be." And he can speak from his experience, and they can say, "All right, this guy knows what he's talking about." Now, one thing to always keep in mind with this guy, if you see him on TV, this is Dan Graziano. This is an Aaron Rodgers hater. So probably because of the vaccine stuff, this guy's probably quadruple vaxxed, ready to rock. But he is an AR hater. He hates Aaron Rodgers. Bart Scott's saying, "Hey, let's bring this guy back." This guy's like, "What?" Because he hates Aaron Rodgers, probably because of the vaccine. If I had to guess, he looks pretty vaxxed up. Um, Odd couple. The Glenn Mougie pairing is unconventional, Jamini says. Coach was hired before the GM, and they're both first timers. Now, the reason that the coach was hired before the GM is because that's probably one of the conditions that AG had. AG, remember, went 7 out of 7 for interview requests. So 7 teams had openings. 7 teams wanted to talk to AG. He didn't talk to 7, but they all requested him 100%. So that tells you he had a lot of what leverage. And so, of course, he wanted the Jets job, but he probably also wanted to have some say, at least in personnel. And so he got what he wanted. And it's going to be AG and Darren Muji reporting both up to Woody. They tried it both ways. The Jets have over the years. Now they're doing this because Glenn and Muji are on the same level. In other words, the coach does not report to the GM. They're equal. They're peers, as you would say. and age. So that means more power. So that means AG is going to have more power than Solid did in the old structure, and we'll see how that goes. Now, AG was able to earn that because he had the leverage. He was a highly sought after candidate, and we got him. So Rich says since 2015, there have been 13 instances of a team doing this. Sean McDermott and Brandon Bean, that worked out pretty good. Stefanski and Berry, the Browns seem to like them, even though they haven't gotten a lot of wins out of that combo. Dayball and Shane, no good. Canales and Morgan, TBD. Campbell and Holmes, excellent. O'Connell and Quasey, excellent. And then Lyle, as they call them out in San Francisco, Shanahan and Lynch worked out pretty good. 2 Super Bowls appearances, no wins, but so some pretty good success in there. A couple of stinkers. 5 of these pairs never worked together. So yes, the formula can succeed. It's just not common. And then the last word, Glenn has an advanced degree in Bill Parcells football. Former Jets and University of Virginia coach Al Groh, who's mentored Glenn in recent years, been getting mentoring. And so if you wanted Bill Parcells to come in and could coach this team, of course, he's not going to do that because he's too old. But the next best thing um, is probably Aaron Glenn. Well, he didn't get a lot, PC. He said they don't get a lot, and you got to make the best of whatever you get. He said you got to teach quick because you don't get as much as the offense and the defense, and you got to make the best of it, and that's why it's so difficult. And if you have a good coach, you hang on to him. And I think we had a good coach in Boyer, but I think it was time to move on, get a new voice in there. Jojo says I think our defense will bounce back. Well, we need more than a few additions, but yes, we'll see what it looks like. And like a guy we should probably pursue is Javon Hargrave would be a target of mine, and we'll pick up some of the Detroit guys for sure. So that's what we got from Chimini today. That's the brand new article from Rich Samini. Caden says, do a Jets mock draft. Nope, not right now. Not until I know what's going on with the quarterback situation. Why would we do that now? Uh, but one thing I will say, we could do a 1 round mock, and the guy I think we're going to pick is this guy. Now, let's see. Let's take a look at this. My 1st round target, assuming Rodgers comes back with Devontae and Lazard. My 1st round pick would be this man, number 66 from LSU, and that would be Will Campbell. This is Nussmeier, the quarterback. Now he's going against Shamar Stewart, uh, who is a very high 1st round prospect. Here he is again. And you can see against this high level of competition, he does very well. So number 4 is considered one of the best edge rushers in the draft class this year. And you can see 66 pretty much shuts him down. Good anchor right there. And now he's on the right side over here. Good job. He's over here. That's nicely done. So you can see that's the way it is. Now, if we do that, then of course the rest of the draft is pretty much going to be defense. But I'm thinking that Aaron Glenn and Muji are going to want to finish building this line, and this is the man to do it. Here he is on the left. So, this would be our right tackle. He's playing left tackle for LSU, but he's going to have to come over and play right tackle for us. I don't think that's a problem. We'll just start him over there. Um, in training camp and all, and we say this is you're going to be on that side now. And because if you think about the way the Detroit Lions in particular built their team, they built it from the trenches out, which is the way you should do it. And they got Panay Sewell and all these great offensive linemen, and I think we're going to want to solidify this up. And Campbell seems to be that guy. So there you go, against high level competition. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it's pretty darn good. Look at that anchor. That's pretty good. Pretty, pretty, pretty good. So, in terms of reading the tea leaves, reading all the scouting reports, Campbell seems to be a guy who's a top 10 guy by all um, accounts. And so that would be my main target. And I think that's what the Jets are going to do, assuming, of course, that Rogers and Adams and Lazard are back. Now, if they're not, then that changes everything, and all options then are on the table. But it seems like reading the tea leaves, it seems like they're all coming back for one more year, and then we finish the line, and then we try to build up the defense and kind of take it from there. Kind of take it from there. Yeah, that's the other thing to keep in mind, Jojo. This is a good point. It's hard to come across these tackles in free agency, and when they do come out, they're very, very expensive, and they don't come out into free agency very often. They really do. So, I think it's one of these things where it's like, um, it's hard to find. Like, we should sign Morgan Moses as a backup because you can't. It's hard to even find backups, let alone starter quality, right? And so, um, these, and so you might as well take them. I mean, and plus the other thing is that this draft seems to be deep in defensive tackles. So that's another thing that I've been reading about this draft is all the scouts and everything seem to think this is a very deep draft for defensive tackles. So if that's the case, then probably our second round pick will be a defensive tackle, and then from then on we just keep going pretty much defense. Sign a few key free agents. We need to sign a tight end or two. Maybe we sign a free agent safety, for example. We'll have to see. But that's the way I'm leaning right now. I think the three amigos are coming back. I think the three amigos are tied together: Adams, Lazard, and Rogers. And as long as they agree to reduce cap hits and all that, change their contracts, then um, then I think they're coming back. But we'll have to see. That's certainly not certain. And if they don't, then all bets are off, and we could draft pretty much anything. It's harder to project out, although it still would be a good idea to build out the offensive line. Yeah, and JoJo says edge is deep too. Yeah, we'll probably need one of those as well. Um, we only have two. We kind of need four with this type of defense with the 4-3. If we're going to stick with now, if we're going to do more blitzing, we might want to get more linebackers or higher quality linebackers, like a higher quality third linebacker. Obviously, we should sign Sherwood back, but that might be something we would look at, sort of maybe like a linebacker edge hybrid type of dude. Those guys are hard to find, though, so we'll have to see. PC says one interesting thing Ulbrich said. Yeah, Ulbrich, I wouldn't put too much stock in anything Ulbrich said. If we learn anything, things Ulbrich says are not really worth analyzing, to be honest with you. I'm not really, um, I'm not really concerned with Olbrich, and I'm not really concerned with the ex staff. Like the ex staff is gone. Get out of here. I don't care. I don't care what they say. I don't care. I wish them well, but I'm not paying attention to the ex staff. You're out of here. Go away. I'm not going to sit around listening to interviews of Ulbrich or Sala or anybody. It's time to start focusing on the new people. I'm sick and tired of the old excuses, the old gassing everybody up to the high heavens and taking a hard look at everything. Just go away. I don't care about Ulbrich. I don't care about Sala anymore. I don't care about Mike Rutenberg or Tony Odin or Mark Manuel. They're all gone. See you later. Hope you do well in your new place. Don't care about what you have to say anymore about the Jets. Sick and tired of the hard looks and the we're gonna take a look at it and yeah and this and that and just shut up. Just tired of it. Tired of it. Tired of it. All right. So that being the case, let's see what else we got. Here's one for Phil Adams. So Phil Adams in the chat. Everybody knows Phil Adams is in old jolly old England. Look at this, Phil. Emerging Soccer League raises $24 million. Curious what old Phil Adams has to say about this. Fast Break AI signs another partnership and Baller League completes $24 million funding round. Here's the Baller League. Phil, this is the Baller League. It's a digital focused soccer league, has secured investment from certain people and former players, 24 million, blah, blah, blah. What's unique about this league is it's a six-a-side format, shorter match times, and focus on making the sport more exhilarating and entertaining. So now it's been in Germany and it's coming to the UK. The question is are people going to be excited about this? Baller League has already conducted 2 seasons in Germany, expanding to the UK next month. So I wonder if these alternative leagues. So one of the things that Phil has talked about, and a lot of people have talked about, is in the Premier League and the Champions League and all these leagues. There's too much flopping going on, and it seems like it's rife for fixing the games and stuff like that. Which means, can an upstart league like this, uh, can it? Yeah, but Phil, can an upstart league like this appeal to somebody like you? This is why I'm asking you this, Phil. Like, yeah, those old leagues are dead and terrible. They're dead to you. But what about a league like this? It's six-a-side, shorter match times. They're making the sport more exhilarating and entertaining, it says here. So can this type of league appeal to all the people who have been turned off by the Premier League and the Champions League and all of the leagues with all the flopping and all that stuff? So that's really the question. And that's, I think, is interesting because you do have a lot of people getting sick and tired of the NFL, for example, with all of the flopping and all of the refs fixing games for the Kansas Swifty Chiefs and all that. And so we keep an eye on some of these other situations and see if maybe the NFL, with all of its stupid things it's doing in terms of the Kansas Swifty Chiefs, maybe they're rife for a little competition. And if a league like this could succeed in challenging the Premier League, um, and there's something called the Kings League, whatever that is. But the goal of the Baller League is to merge top internet influencers and creators with the culture of street football to engage a younger demographic. So Phil Adams says no. Played five-a-side for years. It's a game you play with your mates. So not professionally, but this is six aside, Phil. And but what about the young kids? This says it's going after a younger demographic. Is it going to appeal to them? You're not a young demographic, Phil. We all know that. And so I think it's something to watch. Now maybe it'll fail, but I mean most things do fail. But it's something to watch as you see an upstart league. Now, I'm not sure this picture is the best for marketing. I mean, first of all, why are you at the airport? We're starting a new football league, everyone. All right, let's go to the airport and take a picture. What? And how come we couldn't even afford? We raised $24 million. We couldn't afford chairs. We got to sit on boxes. Why are we sitting on boxes? What- we raised 24 million. Can we get a few folding chairs for the 24 mil? No, it's all going to player salary. Okay, and you know, I mean, this is not great marketing. We're going to take a picture right outside the airport. We're going to sit on boxes, and some people are sitting, some people are crouching, other people are standing. And what the hell is this? The hell is this? Phil says, I'm a very old Democrat. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you got to think about these young kids. Is this something the young kids want? Like, there's a reason why this KSI guy is right in the middle. Notice who's in the middle of this picture also. Most prominent person here is this guy in terms of the way they um, set up this picture, in addition to being in the background of an airport, which I don't understand. But this is KSI. Who is he? He's a very big YouTube content creator. Very big. Huge, some might say. And so all of the fans of KSI might come over and watch this league. That's the idea. And that's the only reason he's there is because he's got a big audience and he's going to be able, theoretically, to bring that audience to this league. And look at the league. The balls have red lines on them. I mean, that's something. They designed these soccer balls with red lines on them, Phil. I mean, that might appeal to somebody. And I don't think they're going to play the game outside the airport, but it might appeal to somebody. So we got to keep an eye on these alternate leagues for sure. So AFG says high school football is becoming 8 man. Oh, well, I mean, that's bad for upstate New York. I would say that's bad. That's, I don't know what's going on there. That's certainly not happening down here in the South. I can tell you that, AFG. And that's why, like, uh, well, this is one of the reasons why there's no talent that comes out of New York, AFG. Hate to tell you. All of the talent for basically all sports comes out of Florida and Texas and California, places where there's sunshine. Very, very, very little comes out of the Northeast in general in New York. I mean, some, of course, but a very, very small percentage. And this is just going to make it worse. If they're playing 8 on 8, I mean, what are they doing? But that would never happen, and that would never happen in a place like Texas or Florida. I mean, people would burn the school down if anybody even proposed it. So, they're just going to put those kids and those athletes at a disadvantage to their peers relative to, geography. They're already at a disadvantage uh, because they don't play in a place that has sunny sunshine. The places with sunshine are the places that you can play any sport you want year round. And that's where all the athletes come from. So I don't know what's going on there, but I would say that's not good for those athletes. It's not going to help them any. And probably you're not going to get the best athletes playing football then. Any good athletes that are with those high schools, if they see they're playing 8 on 8, uh, those athletes are not going to play football. They're going to go into basketball or baseball or what have you. So it's just going to mean less people, even less people coming into making it through from those areas. They have a five-a-sides league in beach soccer. They really don't go anywhere. One more guy is not a big deal. Yeah, but what about the digital? So they say PC they're making it more exhilarating and exciting, and it's digital first, which I guess means they're going to stream it on YouTube. If I had to guess what that means, they're saying they're focusing on making it more exhilarating and entertaining. That's what their value prop is. Phil says, as a kid, every boy played football every day. Now, kids don't even go outside. Yeah, well, they do down here in Florida and Texas, I tell you that much. In Louisiana and all the southern states, these kids are outside, I tell you that much. So there's a big for those who don't know, there's a big cultural thing about high school football in particular, and then it trickles down to pee-wees and all the below high school stuff. In the South, like high school football it's almost like a religion in Texas, in Florida. It is big time. And it's almost too big. In a lot of ways, it's too big time because now a lot of money is involved. There's NIL deals and all kinds of things. So there's all sorts of like sketchy people hanging around these kids trying to get them to go to this camp and that camp. And if you're a kid, you got to go to 72 different camps. In fact, you're outside all the time and you're going to these camps, and the camps are expensive for one thing. You got to pay money in a lot of them, not all of them, but some. And then you got to decide, okay, which camp do I go to? Who's going to be at the camp? Are any of the coaches or the coaches people who can get me into this high school going to be there or get me into this college, whatever level you're at? These kids got to go to all these camps. There's camps all the time. Which camp to go to, which camp not to go to, what's a waste of time, what's a scam, what's not a scam, what's legit, what's not legit. It's all over the place. And that's a big problem. But it's all because everybody wants to create feeders into the colleges. And there's so much money involved with college. It's a big business. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, these kids down here in the South of America, they're outside. I'll tell you that much. Tell you that much. Now they're not playing soccer; they're playing football and basketball and basketball. All right, now here's something interesting. Now uh, we're all concerned about injuries. What about this? The big story. Uh, a company you've never heard of might have just discovered the solution to the most common injury in all of sports. What? Background. Last year, I made a video about how the NFL spent $4 million to fund a study that aims to help athletes like Christian Watson find out why they suffer from so many hamstring injuries. Got an injured hammy, which the league says is the most common injury its players suffer from. So here's this video. In that video, I told you about how Christian Watson and some other Green Bay Packers went down to the University of Wisconsin to get their hamstrings studied. They studied their hamstrings for 8 hours. That's a lot of studying. But it turns out I didn't tell you the whole story. There's new technology. Scientists there used a relatively new software called Springbok Analytics to create a three-dimensional models of these athletes' bodies based on two-dimensional MRI scans. It only takes about 10 to 30 minutes to do the MRI, and then within a few hours, Springbok produces a hyper detailed 3D model for trainers and doctors to analyze. These models are important because, unlike 2D images, they allow teams to detect early signs of injury, such as muscle asymmetries and fatty infiltrations. Last thing you want is a fatty infiltration. You don't want any fatties infiltrating. Zero. That's what you want. No fatty infiltrations. Muscle asymmetry. In fact, it was only through these 3D models that the university was able to find a 20% asymmetry in the hamstring muscle between Watson's right and left legs. This means that his left hamstring was 20% stronger than his right one. So, as his weaker right hamstring tried to keep up with the explosiveness of the stronger left one, the weaker one became more easily fatigued and in turn injured. So, this is all about wear and tear, which is something I've been talking about for a long time. Here are some images that's kind of hard to know what's going on there. After learning this, Watson said he began working on closing that gap. The question is, why did he have the gap? To the point where this season he was only at 8 to 10% difference in strength. And while perfect symmetry is nearly impossible, goal is to get it to around 6%. Currently, Springbok works with 15 NBA teams, Major League Baseball, EPL teams, and the University of Wisconsin. From their roughly 200 customers, company expects to generate upwards of $5 million in revenue this year. That's not that much revenue, really. And with the goal of using their technology to help solve MLB pitchers' arm injuries next. But they haven't even really solved this. But the idea here being this would be very useful if teams could have this technology on site, for example, and they could use it after games, and everybody gets a scan, and then we see what their muscles are looking like, and their hammies, and all their the calf muscle, all the muscles are looking like, and what that means as far as a workload for the next week. Do we need to sit this guy this week? Injury prevention, and do we know that from the data, not just guessing? And if so, that might it would be bad because the person would have to be out that week. But if it saves you long term injury, it's worth it. It's worth it. So I would say seems pretty promising, but this doesn't really point to long term success. Now this is relatively new, and so you got to see how this plays out. But you would think that the NFL is looking into not only this, but many other kinds of ways to do something similar to this to reduce these injuries. As everyone knows, injuries are not good for anyone. It's not good for the league. It's not good for the player. Not good for the fans. Not good for anyone except maybe the doctors. But I think the doctors get paid regardless. So not good for anyone. So this is something that maybe could be more in the proactive camp where you do some of these scans on a regular basis, and then based on the results you get, you determine somebody's workload for the next X number of days. That's kind of cool. Joe Mike says, imagine if the NFL went with the soccer format to demote teams to the lower league. Yeah, people have said that um, before. It's called relegating. Relegate. We've been relegated to the lower league. I don't think we could really realistically do that here, though. Fans would be poached. Well, PC, you might want to get a scan from Springbok and see what they tell you. You might have one of your hammies is a little off, a little too much, a little too strong, a little too strong. Now, speaking of injuries, what about this story? What about the interaction between the playing surface and the cleat and your foot and all of that. What about this? These cleats help prevent the most common injury in sports, but not in the way you think. Unchanged for decades. For decades, every cleat across every sport has been designed to look as sleek as possible. And while the technology and the spikes and material has changed, the general shape of the cleat hasn't until now. A few years ago, Jeff Goff, wonder if he's related to Jared Goff, his kids started playing sports and he realized that the only cleats available were tight and uncomfortable. He also believed they constricted the natural and broader development of the human foot. So he decided to do something about it, create his own cleat company called Natter Athletics. Natter Athletics. On the surface, the design of Jeff's cleats makes a lot of sense. Instead of squeezing an athlete's foot into an unnaturally narrow toe box, the Iron Lion cleat allows the toes to spread out. This provides an athlete with a much broader support base for running, cutting, jumping. Not to mention, they also feature a patented cleat plate system that allows the foot's muscles and its 33 joints to have a full range of motion while still providing grip and stability through the studs. But how do they prevent injuries, though? Preventing injuries. Good old Jeff points out that the two most common injuries in sports have to do the ankle and knee. And he believes that this is largely caused by the narrow base athletes are forced to move on. He also points out that most modern cleats aren't designed to use almost any of the athlete's natural foot muscles to help stabilize the rest of their legs. So this is, I guess, what they look like here. Natter motion cleat plate system. However, with Iron Lion cleats, so maybe some of these cleats could prevent some of these injuries also. An athlete's foot can provide a much broader and stable base for cuts and deceleration. So basically, just make the toe box wider. Seems like what they did, which is when these type of injuries happen most. Right now, you can pre-order for $160. So these are not something that's being used at the highest level now, but maybe some lower level athletes will start using them, and then the NFL might approve these. So this is a new thing. If you got kids, you might want to get them on these Natter motion cleats. Give them an advantage over some of their peers. And prevent injuries all the while. All the while. So pretty interesting goings on in some of these sort of entrepreneurial efforts to work on injuries, to work on improving performance with through science, through figuring out. All right, let's use some of these computer models. Let's use some AI models. Let's figure out what's going on, and then get some better equipment to help people with their sporting efforts. This is going to be all over them. So just checking to see if there's any latest news breaking. Otherwise, we'll call it a day. Uh, no, doesn't seem to be like there's anything going on. So I will say thanks for everybody for joining. Um, we'll see what's going on next week with the Super Bowl because we will do a watch along for the Super Bowl. So join me then. We'll see how the refs are going to throw it for the Kansas Swifty Chiefs for sure. I would think, or do they let the Philadelphia Eagles have one? So we'll have to see. That'll be interesting. But thanks for joining. See you all next week. Click the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new.